Please allow me to say I absolutely despise my ISP. So I'm going to take a quick minute here to just make sure that the connection's back. Actually, I'm just going to tab out for a minute. Okay. One. Okay, not my favorite. I don't have a quality marker on the stream right now. There we go. All right. We are properly back. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm assuming that's going to get broken up into 2 videos for YouTube, and I don't feel great about that. So this is about Jaspos. He thinks because he can cleanse the water, not as well as I do, mind you, that he can pontificate at all hours of the day. I nearly drowned myself once rather than listen to one of his tirades, you know. But I knew the moment my body was discovered, he'd be raining another righteous speech about cowardice down upon my corpse. That wouldn't do. Look, I'll say it plain. Jaspos has a big mouth and he talks incessantly about transforming Bastard's wound into something great. But the truth is that he's just out for himself. He slams his staff into the ground, mouth quivering as he speaks. I built this place from nothing, and he thinks he can come in and claim it when the hard work's already been done? Not on my watch. I heard a beast woman here once held sway. He cocks an eyebrow. Ah, Reef Talon. Curious case, that one. She pawed her way into these caves a year ago with her cubs. A vicious fighter, for certain. Bane of the Bane, I'd like to say. She took charge of the tribe, but had a curious way about her. The most fascinating beast I'd ever met. Oddly pensive, strangely polite, prone to bathing. Things really got unusual when, after a bloody dust-up with the Bane, Reef Talon healed some other members of the patrol with her touch. Can't say heal with a straight face. Those who had their wounds tended by Reef Talon felt spectacular for a few days, but by week's end, a whole host of new maladies overtook them. Reef Talon was a mystic? She claims she wasn't, and I've never known a beast to downplay her strengths, but as sure as water's wet, she can mend wounds with a mere touch, so she must have had some training. Having seen what her healing did, hindsight tells me why she would be hesitant to discuss her mystic training. What sort of problems happened to those who were healed? It started subtle, really. Folks treated by Red Talon just slept a little less each night, at first claiming they felt too hale and hardy to sit in bed. Later, they'd be exhausted from days spent waking, yet unable to sleep. The old tidecaster shifts his weight with a sigh. I think it shifts his weight with a sigh. After days of being sleepless, other things would start to go. Tempers, memories. Worst of all, a few who could work sigils lost the talent. I imagine spending an afternoon listening to Jaspos droning on about the virtues of pulverizing stone. You'd be frustrated and exhausted, somewhat murderous in intent, but for some reason you can't sleep. Night turns to day, which turns into night. We took to calling those affected the sleepless, and warned others of what became of those cured by Reef Talon. What became of Reef Talon? A few span back, a patrol of disfavored were in the mountains, searching areas struck by Cairn's magic, so they said. Well, they stumbled on our refuge, and being disfavored, were shocked and appalled not just by our squatting in the old walls, but by the beast men living with us. A few even deferred to Reef Talon during the parley, and seeing humans look to a beast woman as rather appalling in those was rather appalling to those iron thugs. The meeting quickly turned violent. Man leads beast, not the other way around. Such things should not require an explanation. We bested the disfavored, but Reef Talon fled during the altercation. I guess a combination of guilt from warping her fellows with magic and feeling of shame that her presence roused the disfavored to attack us. I have no proof, but I think Reef Talon fled to save us from her. There's plenty of folks who hate her, but I, for one, don't think her actions were ever malicious. Protecting this place is all she cares about, and she probably realized she had to go to save us all. Regardless of her specific motivation, I'm certain she fled deeper into the old walls, not topside. Someone claims she dove into the water. Another claims she accessed a teleporter. Either way, she hasn't been into the village since the disfavored arrived. If anyone can survive the depths of the old walls alone, it's Reef Talon. That said, she's been gone a while now, and I'm not sure I'd wager money on her survival to date. What happened to the Sleepless? When Reef Talon fled, almost all the Sleepless went with her. Whether they chased her out of anger or fear of being deserted, I don't know. You might find a few here and there in the refuge, but most of them have taken their chances in the depths of the old walls. Isley, a woman whose life is already marred by the tragedy of wedlock to Japsos, was the last person healed by Reef Talon. She's still cogent. Who knows how long that'll last, poor woman. The Sleepless grow more detached from reason with each day spent waking. I half imagine most went into the old walls to find death at the talons of the Bane. I lost the ability to rest. If I lost the ability to rest, if my magic was taken from me, I'd probably do the same. That's all for now. Good. He closes his eyes and returns to his recitation. So it strikes me that there may be a possibility to... there may be a possibility that talking to Jaspos... Actually, I may have already... Yeah, so talk to one or the other. Well, actually, I don't need to do a big tour. I can... So one of the things you may have noticed over the course of the playthrough is that I am starting to get a little bit more liberal in my interpretation for the law, but I'm not entirely sure I can sell, completely abandoning really clear laws. While they wouldn't weather a strong gale, these tents seem stable enough to offer some privacy to the denizens of the Wound. Cots, bedrolls, and woolen blankets lie within. So yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to go full rebel yet, but... Why do you even come here? The Fatebinder will turn us back out into that war?
A forge bound in the old walls? Seems a nerve-wracking place to work.
Like the forge-bound enclave at Lethian's Crossing, it seems these craftsmen have hewn and set the stones of the old walls into an admirable hearth. Master Japsos protects the Wound, and we protect Master Jaspos. An outsider. You'll be wanting to speak to the Master. He's east of here, past the forge. Jaspos is over the bridge. He will explain. Please be merciful, Fatebinder. A heavily muscled man stands next to a mixed pile of broken floor tiles and smashed boulders, head bent in focus, sledgehammer gripped tightly in both hands. Without breaking his gaze, he calmly extends an arm out as you approach, signaling for you to wait. In one smooth motion, he whirls the sledgehammer in a precise arc, effortlessly splitting a large green-gray boulder in two. He smiles and lets out a pleased chuckle before turning to greet you. Ah, Fatebinder, or should I say Governor? That explains all the ruckus I've been hearing. His voice is deep, a confident baritone that easily carries through the open air. Forgive my rudeness, masters of the craft rarely break focus if we can help it. Old habit. He smiles broadly, motioning you to come forward. Your arrival is unexpected, but my forge is always open to servants of the court. What can I do for you? I'm Jaspos, Master of Napping, and this settlement is called the Bastard's Wound. I expect you're looking for its leader. No doubt someone pointed you in my direction. The legality of this place must be determined by a Fatebinder. Then we're lucky to have you here, Fatebinder. I can assure you that I would never do or advise anything that works against Kairos' will. The Wound is a complicated place. Many came before me, and I've done my part to steer things correctly. As I'm sure you know, that's not always an easy task. There is another man here that unfortunately holds some sway, Wagstaff, a tidecaster. Possibly the last tidecaster, from what I understand. He crosses his arms, his muscles tensing reflexively. He practically founded this place years ago, and truth be told, he's the one responsible for its creation, legal or not. We don't always see eye to eye, but I did trust that his decision was respectful of the Overlord's will. A dull crash interrupts the exchange. A forge helper, hands still trembling, hastily attempts to gather up the pieces of a dropped bowl. Nearby, several onlookers have gathered to observe the meeting and whisper nervously amongst themselves. Forgive them, Fatebinder. They're understandably anxious. As you know, men and women live and die by your words. These people here, all of us in fact, are wondering what your intentions are for this settlement. I haven't decided yet. I have questions for you first. I'm sure there's much more you'd like to know about the Wound. Ask away, anything you need. What do you do here as one of the Wound's leaders? I don't look the part, I know. Most of my guild huddle by the heat of their forges and stick to themselves. Here, I think of my forge more as a hearth. Everyone is invited to share in its warmth. In a practiced motion, he unfastens a rag looped around his belt and wipes off trace amounts of sweat from his already spotless brow. Perhaps that's better? Obviously, I work the forge. In a place like this, that means everything. Those bridges you see, my handiwork. The knives and weapons everyone's carrying, they came from my forge. The nails holding our containers together and keeping our shelters upright, mine again. But most importantly, I created these stone sieves to clean the water. He pats one of the open stone receptacles, pride evident in his voice. First of its kind, and none too soon. When I came here, many were sick with the withering rot. The disease is in the water. It's a terrible way to go, but the sieves changed things. How do the stone sieves work? Trade secrets, I'm afraid. He pauses for dramatic effect. Except for members of the court. It's really a matter of using the right combination of enchanted stones, pulverized charcoal, and a few precious stones in a precise arrangement. These materials act as the sieve in these containers. He points towards the base of one of them, drawing your attention to water dripping out of a small opening and into a collecting bowl. Anything that comes out of here is free of the disease. Now this place isn't exactly bursting with precious stones, so I had to devise a substitute. Beastman claws and teeth, when properly prepared, have the properties I need. Since they regrow over time, and I've been able to collect donations from our many warriors, I do prefer using stone wherever possible, though. What does a master of napping do? Ah, and I shall tell you. He places a hand upon his belt and runs his finger across the many hammers, chisels, and picks draped across his waist, stopping at a simple stone hammer. Masters of napping focus on the fundamentals of all forge work. Before you can make bronze and iron, you need a hot fire and a controlled space. You need a stone forge. He grips his belt firmly, puffing out his chest slightly as he speaks. Give me a few days, and I can take a pile of rocks and fashion proper stone hammers and tools. Give me a few weeks, and I can use those tools to build a worthy forge. And with that forge, I can create anything you'd ever need. Stonework is the purest form of our craft. Civilization could be reduced to ashes, and a master of napping would be the one to reforge it. Tell me about Tidecaster Wagstaff. You should know that Wagstaff and I aren't on the best terms. He's old and set in his ways. I've tried, believe me. I've reached out, invited him to share my fire and talk like men, but he's the sort that prefers his own company and ideas. He doesn't seem to care about people the way I do. In fact, I think he views us as irritants one must endure. He sighs loudly, shaking his head with an exasperated smile. He does help the Wound, I'll grant him that, cleansing water with his magic. His methods are different than mine, of course, far slower. He thinks his contributions are more valuable since they can combat disease. A valuable tool for certain, but without the volume of water produced from my stone sieves, this element would die in a span. In the end, he just refuses to accept that his role has changed. He helped the Wound get its bearings years ago, but being the first does not make one qualified to lead. He hates people that have responded to me and has been blinded by that. What do you know about Reef Talon? He holds a bowl of crushed rock aloft, squinting to examine its contents as he speaks. So you've heard. It's unfortunate what happened to her. Reef Talon arrived a year after I did. Massive creature, one of the largest beasts I've ever seen. She never spoke of her past much, but we knew she was in flight when she stumbled upon the wound with her cubs. He pulls a fragment out of the bowl, running it slowly between his fingers. Whatever she fled from, it didn't stop her from devouring the Bane. She was good at it, good enough to lead the Beastmen, but Reef Talon had something else far more important. She could heal others with a mere touch. It didn't matter if you'd been raked by the Bane or fell on your own sword. She could close up your wounds and send you on your way like nothing had ever happened. That's no ordinary magic. How did she do this? I don't think she knew herself. She wasn't a student of her craft, not even using Beastman mystics as a standard. What I do here, that's not an accident. It's years of controlled study and meticulous perfection. Reef Talon simply acted on instinct, and that didn't work to anyone's benefit. With a dissatisfied shake of his head, he flicks the unwanted chip into the water. Sometimes we're better off without such miracles. Those Reef Talon healed slowly became sick. It was impossible for them to sleep, even when exhausted, and the relentless waking drove them mad. The affliction takes a while to fully take hold, but the end result is always the same. Even worse, those bestowed with magic slowly lost their gifts, or lose their gifts. He looks towards the forge, a pained expression visible on his face. Now they're just known as the Sleepless. All of their life and vitality robbed and spent. A terrible end, Fatebinder. Reef Talon couldn't face her mistakes, and she fled into the old walls like a coward. He circles around the platform, speaking as much to passers-by as with you. And to think that many here saw her as a leader. What leader runs in the face of adversity? Those of us that remain, we are the ones that continue to hold up Bastard's wound. I toil every day to keep the fires of my forge running, and the people can see who they truly can rely upon. Nearby onlookers shout and pump their fists in support, eliciting a raised fist from the forge-bound master in return. How do you deal with the Bane? In case you haven't noticed, the beastmen with us aren't your common feral savages. Something about this place focuses them. Whether they come as our workers or on their own, they'll all eventually become fixated on the Bane. I've seen some hunched over, guarding our portals for hours. If any Bane come through, they'd savage them instantly. But apart from the Bane, our beastmen aren't violent. Strange, but welcome. He scratches his chin in thought. I have no explanation. We never asked the beastmen to act as our sentries. They took it on naturally, and have never complained. We do lose some to injury, but so far their defense has worked. I mean to clarify my intentions towards this settlement. What do you intend, Fatebinder? The settlement stretches the interpretation of Kairos' laws. To justify its existence, the wound must provide material support for the court. Oh man, that's not what I meant. He nods, slowly at first, then forcefully. Yes, you're right. We can, and we will. There is much we can achieve here, and I have many ideas on how we can move forward to meet the court's demands. Consider this my first tithe to the court. If we continue to prosper, perhaps there might be more. Jaspos unhooks the purse from his belt, and without separating the rings, hands you the whole thing. Excited whispers can be heard behind you as onlookers take in the news with visible relief. A few settlers quickly escape towards different corners of the settlement, spreading word to the anxious. We aren't rich in material wealth, but the wound has incredible potential. Between the ruins above and the depths below, there are treasures to mine that we can deliver to you. It will take some effort, but with your assistance, we can deliver on that promise. On that note, if you've the time, I have a matter that could benefit from your expertise. You may ask, but I make no promises. We don't have the luxury of trading with the topside. It could attract the wrong kinds of attention. Instead, we craft what we need. In my case, I can make a wide variety of tools, but I can't make everything. When we were building the forges of Lethian's Crossing, I had access to some of the finest chisels, tappers, and abrasives. I carried only my travel kit with me, and when I found myself here in the wound, I've been able to craft a few replacements, but to my chagrin, I haven't recaptured the craftsmanship. The napping tools needed are rather specialized, and I lose sleep knowing that I can't replace anything I break. Since I've been missing, I imagine my tools were appropriated by my colleagues in Lethian's Crossing. Lohara will no doubt know of their whereabouts. With my old tools, I could really stay on top of the work that's needed to keep this place running. I'll speak with Lohara. I'm sure this will be a simple matter for you, Fatebinder. Thank you for your assistance. Farewell. Safe journeys, Fatebinder. So we'll see what the napping on the job. Talk to the Forge Bound in Lethian's Crossing. A man clad in the frayed remnants of his Earthshaker uniform focuses intensely upon the dark stones held in cupped hands. His eyes move from one piece to the next. He hears your footsteps and shifts his gaze to meet yours. Fatebinder, forgive me, I didn't see you. Jaspos has me performing these exercises to attune my senses, to see the shapes hidden within the rock. Flustered, he quickly tugs on the hem of his shirt and straightens his belt. I may not be with the disfavored anymore, but I still recognize a Fatebinder's authority. Is there something you need from me? How does an Earthshaker end up in the company of this motley? I'm the odd man out, I know. He motions to his purple-gray garments. After Cain has been declared a criminal, Graven Ash charged us with scouring the Archon's belongings and retracing his path. I was with the group headed to the Gates of Judgment. As we cut west across these mountains, we came upon this place. Of course, any association to Cairn didn't make me popular with the Legion. Tilsophia was all too eager to remind me that if Cairn's treachery were to ever come to light, all Earthshakers would likely be executed for assumed collusion. So you'll forgive me if, after stumbling upon Bastard's Wound and facing insurmountable odds in battle, I decided to surrender rather than just join my handful of companions in death. What do you think of Bastard's Wound? I find myself at home here, even if everything about the old walls seems antithetical to life. If the Bane don't kill you, the water will. Without Jaspos, this place wouldn't exist, or couldn't exist. His eyes move from the churning water to the massive stone walls stretching towards the sky. The old walls have always been invigorating spaces for mages of my ilk. They're like untapped fonts of magical energy, and the ancient masonry, inspiring. That's what life was like to the people that shaped these massive... what was life like to the people who shaped these massive walls? He shrugs, amused. You speak well of Jaspos. Jaspos is many things. Teacher, husband, companion. Argin's gaze turns thoughtful. He's teaching me to connect with stone in a deeply personal way. Earthshakers manipulate rock, but we don't feel or shape them with the intimacy of the Forgebound. I'll talk to you later. With a despondent sigh, the forge-bound smith unfastens the strap around one of her pauldrons and drops the metal appendage to the floor, exposing a muscular figure. She quickly traces a sigil with her ungloved hand and touches a hammer dangling from her smock, frowning as it stubbornly remains inert and unsympathetic to her magical entreaties. She glances up as you approach. Sorry, Fatebinder. My spellcraft hasn't been cooperative of late. I take it you're not here to talk about my preoccupations? Anything in particular you'd like to discuss? She offers a forced, polite smile, but can't maintain it for more than a moment. What do you do in the forge? I'm Jaspos's apprentice. Have been so for the last few years. She scoops up a small clay pot and spins it between her fingers. Napping wasn't originally my specialty. I apprenticed under Master Erasma back in Lethian's Crossing, but a freak accident meant that she'd take her secrets of the ceramic arts to the void. Jaspos had just finished his work and was returning north for more training with the guild, so I joined him. Long story short, we stumbled upon the wound and stayed. I took on a new trade with Jaspos as my mentor. What happened earlier with the hammer? I was embarrassing myself again. Seems like that's my only reliable talent these days. Her cheeks grow flushed and she looks to the ground. I thought I was a competent napper, practically a journeyman in skill. Lately, even the simplest preparatory spells vex me, like that sorry display that you just witnessed. She raises her eyes to meet yours. Something about this place is hollowing me out from the inside. Whatever forge burns inside grows cold. Let's not speak any more of it. You're becoming one of the sleepless, aren't you? I think I am. Started when I broke my hand under the mallet. Rookie mistake. I have to reef talent to heal it, but things have gone sour ever since. Can't sleep. Can't summon a sigil to save my life. Worst of all, She lowers her hand down to her stomach, frowning as she thinks better of saying more. I don't know how much time I have left. I just want to enjoy whatever last moments I have with Jaspos. Do you enjoy working for Jaspos? I do. Jaspos introduced me to napping, and it came easier than pottering. My first class. Sorry, I'm stumbling over words today. My first craft. If we hadn't fallen in love and married, I might have returned to the north and stayed in Kairos' good graces. She slowly nods as if recalling a long-forgotten memory. I will take my leave. The forge-bound apprentice stares intently at the amber hide he holds aloft, pounding its surface methodically with a heavy iron mace. The light from the nearby hearth dances around his eyes. As you draw closer, the pungent odors of tanning agents thickens in the air. He turns to you wearing a stoic expression. Is there a problem? You need something? What's your role in this settlement? This is my third year apprenticing under Jaspos. Between that and trying to keep the settlement running, I'm never short on work. He flicks a chunk of animal fat from his belt buckle and glances around the chamber, frowning. Whenever I can, I slip away to the surface with the woundkin for a good hunt. Caves and hollows aren't meant for the living. I get my materials from the kill, tusks for tools, hide for sturdy clothing. The rest goes to tents, cots, and we haven't even gotten down to the meat. The woundkin, they understand better than we do. I suppose I'm also a napper. Jaspos has to pass down his art, right? But everyone knows my passion and skill is tanning. How has apprenticing for Jaspos been? Difficult. Don't mistake me, I pledge to follow him, and my loyalty doesn't waver. But I damn well wish we just returned to the north as planned. Instead, I'm stuck inside these old walls, surrounded by Bane and branded as a traitor in Kairos' eyes. He scrapes a worn knife against a whetstone dangling from his belt. Jaspos didn't like my interest in leatherworking. I think he saw it as an insult to his craft. If I favored it so much, I should have sought apprenticeship with the maker of tanning, right? Well, consider that another thing I plan to do when we had returned north. Truth is, people need my skill with hides and pelts far more than any attempts at napping. Every time I clothe or feed someone, they thank Jaspos. He has less and less to say about it. That's right. Every time I clothe or feed someone and they thank Jaspos, he has less and less to say about it. Now that Arjun's apprenticing with him, I think he's content to let me dabble in tanning. I'll talk to you later. Un can protect Beast Woman and humans. Like staff can clear up everything, Fatebinder. Honest. Okay. Same lines. That was unexpected.
interesting.
Not quite ready to go there yet. Oh, it's far. A broad-shouldered woman in disfavored raiment dangles against the nearby column, suspended by her wrists. Though still garbed in the iron breastplate of her unit, she is without helmet and appears unusually at ease in her compromised position. A nearby settler engages in friendly conversation with the disfavored. She peers down at him, listening with dutiful patience. The last lure hooked that trout just fine, but it took the whole thing down. It took the whole thing downstream with it when the knot gave out. I wrapped the line several times, just like you said. You ain't fibbing me, are you, Sophia? What stays your hand, Fatebinder? We must right this injustice immediately. Need a hand? Looks like you have company. Talk later, Sophia. The settler turns to you, wearing an uncertain smile. Good hunting, then. As the settler turns away, the bound soldier takes note of your approach. Tell us, Sophia, to find you in this cesspool of trespassers. He shakes his head. Worry not. We shall release you from this bondage at once. Wait, who the... Barrack, is that you? No, please, leave me be. I'm sworn by duty to slay these fools, and sworn by honor to see to their safety. It is easier to have no choice in the matter. You'd rather stay up there? Even if you set me free, I'm too hungry to fight. It's the only thing that I'd have the mind to do. The time will come when I can free myself, and I will grab the opportunity with both hands. She clenches her pale fingers into fists. I'd salute an officer of the court, but I'm somewhat indisposed at the moment. How did you end up on that column? A few span back, after Cairn was finally declared rogue, the general wanted folks looking for what made Cairn lose his sanity, or his loyalty, depending on your outlook. My unit played escort for the team of Earthshakers as they retraced Cairn's journey through the tiers. We were headed to the Gates of Judgment and came across a crevasse which just happened to be, well... She gestures upward with her head. A middle-aged woman walks by while clutching a woven basket, giving Telesophia a wave. The disfavored soldier nods in return. Good day, Usio. She watches the passing settler before returning her attention to you. You seem to be on good terms with the locals. They're rather lovely folk, despite all of them being Kairos-marking scum-deserving slow deaths. She attempts a limited expression of a shrug. Where was I? We paused to investigate, only to find this nest, this hive. Trespassers living with beasts as equals. All of it an abomination. There was no choice but to put them to the sword. We fought well, but our advance fell apart, and then that coward Argon threw his arms up and surrendered. He broke ranks and left us exposed. If I hadn't been knocked senseless, I would have executed him myself. Woke up, hoisted on this wall, and I've been here ever since. How are you still alive? Graven Ash protects. The General's Aegis can sustain us through far more trying circumstances. She maneuvers her shoulders in a dim approximation of a salute. My wrists are mangled, and I've been tired and hungry for longer than I can remember, but I'm far from death's door. The settlers feed me just enough to keep going. She glances down at her dirt-encrusted armor. I'm sure I smell worse than a beastman dung heap, though. Why don't the settlers just execute you? They have, in a sense. The beastwoman leader of the local pack ordered that I be strung up until dead. Guess she didn't understand Ash's Aegis, so who's laughing now? Nobody wants to anger the resident Bane hunters, so the beasts must have their way. I've had plenty of time to get acquainted with the locals while I perish. It's almost a pity they're all doomed under Kairos. I must be going.
Sorry, I can't.
Heavy odors of musk and urine loiter around these matted straw nests, making their proximity to the sleeping tents to the west the more surprising. Tread carefully. Will not rescue if human falls into water. Good day to you, Fatebinder. Let me be the first to tell you that all of my licenses are well in order, signed and sealed this very year. He swipes a layer of perspiration from his brow and chuckles nervously. No reason at all to ransack my cart or confiscate my goods. I trade in whatever I can get my hands on these days. Care to have a look? What can you tell me about Bastard's wound? What is there to say? Living in the depths of the old walls ain't exactly a wise man's dream, but neither is living under the constant threat of raiders. At least down here, my back gets watched by Beast. Jaspos seems to have a pretty good handle on how things should be done. Certainly more of a people person than Wagstaff, but that doesn't mean the Tidecaster's a bad person or nothing. Can't exactly stay in touch with supply lines down here, but at least I have customers with nowhere else to go. Let's see what you have on offer. Just this way. If you're wall smart, shop wall smart. That's what I always say. He clears his throat. Also, this is Wallsmart. Welcome. I'm working on cries to drive custom. What do you think? Cross your arms and say nothing. The color flees from his face, and his mustache seems to droop. Apologies, Fatebinder. I didn't mean any offense. I stock the staple foods and potions you'd expect from an Azure merchant at a haven value, all in the comfort of the old walls. What can you tell me about Bastard's wound? It's fantastic, so long as the beasts keep the bane at bay. Wagstaff's lads and lasses have been making short work of them too, and he keeps the waters from, well, let's just say that you want to get your water from him. Or Jaspos, I suppose. Nothing against him, but he's got a bit of the old northern blowhard to him. No offense to yourself, of course. Your blow seems entirely soft. That's not better, is it? I'll shut up now. So I did have the impression from the rulings that the settlement was illegal, and certainly that conversation.
They seem to have a plan for dealing with the Bane, provided only a few come through at a time.
Yeah, so it seemed illegal as hell, but I was like, maybe I get some discretion. I really didn't want it to be a bribe. I was thinking more that we would bring it under our control. But we'll roll with the decision we made. Welcome to our little refuge, Fatebinder. You're here to help us keep the wound You here to help us keep the wound clean of Bane? Insipid Moniker plucks at a splotch of dried blood on her greaves. She wears the patchwork armor of a Scarlet Fury. Are the Bane constantly showing up like that? Welcome to our headache. The way the Bane come and go, you'd think the teleporters were beaded curtains. Lucky for us, the beasts seem to love killing Bane. They'll put in more hours on sentry duty than any human, and I welcome the extra sleep. What's through that portal? That goes deeper into the untamed old walls. We send patrols out to sharpen the beast's claws and lighten the number of Bane, but we haven't exactly mapped it. How did you get that name? Funny story, that. She frowns. There's a piece of advice they should give every new chorus conscript, but don't. Ha! Verse belts abruptly before clapping a hand over her mouth and swallowing further chuckles. Somebody made the mistake of asking the voices for a nickname, didn't she? She snickers as she shakes her head. I could have been shits for days or bleeding sores if I'd waited long enough. Even hindsight would have been more appropriate. What do you do here exactly? Whatever Wagstaff wants. I guess you could call me an apprentice. I can read, which is more than most can say. It's more subtle than the red work of the chorus, but I don't mind a change of pace. So the blue is to honor Wagstaff? Exactly. Fucker iced half my gang with his spells, so now I fight for him. Those are the rules. In a twisted way, I think the voices would approve. Not that his approval is any safer than his wrath. I'll be going now.
I've got it.
Fatebinder. The woman before the cart greets you evenly. She wears her graying hair pulled back high over fouled leathers, her narrow eyes emphasizing the dirty creases above her cheeks. It's not a lot of trade in the wound, and little of that in magical goods. If you need scribblers or mixtures gleaned from our forays into the old walls, I'm the one to ask. Can you tell me about Bastard's Wound? Not a bad little place to carve out a bit of life. Better than the war topside, anyway. Wagstaff started things and has been a capable hand on the rudder, if that makes sense. Real father-like, as if he's got a stake in it. That overpuffed bricklayer Jaspos, on the other hand, he's just like every other shit come south with conquest, just looking for a way to bend the tears over and ram his poker up. Got a bit away from myself there. You know that collecting and distributing forbidden lore from the old walls is as serious a crime as settling in them, right? Well, fucked either way, aren't I? She shrugs. Don't worry, Binder. I wouldn't go selling to someone who wasn't a court luminary like yourself. See what you have on offer. Sure thing. Here's what I've scrounged up. Fatebinder. The former nobleman hops on his good leg to face you. Tell me about yourself and Rostrum House. I think you're well acquainted with the manor and its grounds at this point. My father's legacy and my inheritance, reduced to rubble and ash. They call it the Shattered Bastion. He runs his fingers across his eyes, tracing the dark circles that ring them. Rostrum House is but a memory now. Prior to Kairos' arrival, we were a successful merchant family with roots that extended from Azure's capital to Ardent's coasts. My father never married, but that didn't stop him from asserting control over these lands. Tearsman, laws be damned. I'm all that remains of his 3 heirs. What do you do personally? Shouldn't you be leading this settlement? Is this a face worthy of leadership? He snorts, running his hands through unruly hair. No, I lack my father's ambition. I've seen where it leads. Besides, I have little to offer these folks beyond a memory of more optimistic days. He rubs a thick scar running down his arm. My father would be enraged if he saw me today, pacing the mushroom beds or leading swine to slaughter. This life may not be worth much, but it's something at least. How was Rostrum Manor destroyed? I suppose my father's optimism was to blame. Before the Overlord's forces even set foot in the bastard tier, my father invited Tearsmen of all persuasions into these walls to resist Kairos. Didn't matter who you were. Once the tier fell, Cairn arrived to make an example of my family. That monster sundered the whole damn mountain along with my home. My family was killed by the very walls meant to protect them. I was the luckiest, merely pinned by the stone column. I clutched as the floor heaved from Cairn's onslaught. His maimed arm quivers from some unknown exertion. Eventually, a single finger extends downward, and he points to his right leg, heavily scarred and bent at an unusual angle. My fighting days are done, Fatebinder, even if I hate the Overlord more than ever. It's highly unusual for your father to claim land ownership. He didn't cleave to tradition. I'm sure that passing women the land and stuffing men aboard the ships made sense when our ancestors needed clearer lines of inheritance. Men drown, so women wear the crown, as they say. My father never set foot in water. Goes to show how you can overcome any eccentricity if your coffers are full of rings. Speak more persuasively than you or I ever could. Fatebinder,